Starting position 1A. Transquarter, change transquarter 3-3. Transquarter, change transquarter 1A. Starting position 2A. Transquarter, change transquarter 4-3. Transquarter, change transquarter 2A. Starting position 3A. Transquarter, change transquarter 1-3. Transquarter, change transquarter 3A. Starting position 4A. Transquarter, change transquarter 2-3. Transquarter, change transquarter 4A. Starting position 1B. Transquarter, change transquarter 3-4. Transquarter, change transquarter 1B. Starting position 2B. Transquarter, change transquarter 4-4. Transporter, change transporter 2B. Starting position 3B. Transporter, change transporter 1-4. Transporter, change transporter 3B. Starting position 4B. Transporter, change transporter 2-4. Transporter, change transporter 4B. Starting position 1C. Transporter, change transporter 3-1. Transporter, change transporter 1C. Starting position 2C. Transporter, change transporter 4-1. Transquarter, change transquarter 2C. Starting position 3C. Transquarter, change transquarter 1-1. Transquarter, change transporter 3C. Starting position 4C. Transporter, change transporter 2-1. Transporter, change transporter 4C. Starting position 1D. Transporter, change transporter. Transporter, change transporter 3-2. Transporter, change transporter 1D. Starting position 2D. Transporter, change transporter 4-2. Transporter, change transporter 2D. Starting position 3D. Transporter, change transporter 1-2. Transporter, change transporter 3D. Starting position 4D. Transporter, change transporter 2-2. Transporter, change transporter 4D. Starting position A1. Change transporter, transporter 3-3. Change transporter, transporter A1. Starting position A2. Change transporter, transporter 3-4. Change transporter, transporter A2. Starting position A3. Change transporter, transporter 3-1. Change transporter, transporter A3. Starting position A4. Change transporter, transporter 3-2. Change transporter, transporter A4. Starting position B1. Change transporter, transporter 4-3. Change transporter, transporter B1. Starting position B2. Change transporter, transporter 4-4. Change transporter, transporter B2. Starting position B3. Change transporter, transporter 4-1. Change transporter, transporter B3. Starting position B4. Change transporter, transporter 4-2. Change transporter, transporter B4. Starting position C1. Change transporter, transporter 1-3. Change transporter, transporter C1. Starting position C2. Change transporter, transporter 1-4. Change transporter, transporter C2. Starting position C3. Change transporter, transporter 1-1. Change transporter, transporter C3. Starting position C4. Change transporter, transporter 1-2. Change transporter, transporter C4. Starting position D1. Change transporter, transporter 2-3. Change transporter, transporter D1. Starting position D2. Change transporter, transporter 2-4. Change transporter, transporter D2. Starting position D3. Change transporter, transporter 2-1. Change transporter, transporter D3. Starting position D4. Change transporter, transporter 2-2. Change transporter, transporter D4. Starting position A1. Transporter, change transporter CC. Transporter, change transporter A1. Starting position B1. Transporter, change transporter DC. Transporter, change transporter B1. Starting position C1. Transporter, change transporter AC. Transporter, change transporter C1. Starting position D1. Transporter, change transporter BC. Transporter, change transporter D1. Starting position A2. Transporter, change transporter CD. transporter, change transporter, A2, starting position B2, transporter, change transporter, DD, transporter, change transporter, B2, starting position C2, transporter, change transporter, AD, transporter, change transporter, C2, starting position D2, transporter, change transporter, BD, transporter, change transporter, D2, starting position A3, transporter, change transporter, CA, transporter, change transporter, A3, starting position B3, transporter, change transporter, DA, transporter, change transporter, B3, starting position C3, transporter, change transporter, AA, transporter, change transporter, C3, starting position D3, transporter, change transporter, BA, transporter, change transporter, D3, starting position A4, transporter, change transporter, CB, transporter, change transporter, A4, starting position B4, transporter, change transporter, DB, transporter, change transporter, B4, starting position C4, transporter, change transporter, AB, transporter, change transporter, C4, starting position D4, transporter, change transporter, BB, transporter, change transporter, D4. Starting position 1A. Change transporter, transporter, CC, change transporter, transporter, 1A, starting position 1B, change transporter, transporter, CD, change transporter, transporter, 1B, starting position 1C, change transporter, transporter, CA, change transporter, transporter, 1C, starting position 1D, change transporter, transporter, CB, change transporter, transporter, 1D, starting position 2A, change transporter, transporter, DC, change transporter, transporter, 2A, starting position 2B, change transporter, transporter, DD, change transporter, transporter, 2B, starting position 2C, change transporter, transporter, DA, change transporter, transporter, 2C, starting position 2D, change transporter, transporter, DB, change transporter, transporter, 2D, starting position 3A, change transporter, transporter, AC, change transporter, transporter, 3A, starting position AB, change transporter, transporter, AD, change transporter, transporter, 3B, starting position 3C, change transporter, transporter, AA, change transporter, transporter, 3C, starting position 3D, change transporter, transporter, AB, change transporter, transporter, 3D, starting position 4A, change transporter, transporter, BC, change transporter, transporter, 4A, starting position 4B, change transporter, transporter, BD, change transporter, transporter, 4B, starting position 4C, change transporter, transporter, BA, change transporter, transporter, 4C, starting position 4D, change transporter, transporter, BB, change transporter, transporter, 4D.